summer. At last they reached the hut in which they were to live while the deer grazed on the hills of the Valley of the Good Spirit. This hut was a very rude affair, built partly in the ground and partly on the ground. It was of wood and stone, with a skin roof and a long entrance passage. While not as big and comfortable as the house at home, it was the sort of thing these children were used to, and it was quite good enough. That night, after the evening meal, Tuktu begged her father to once more tell the story of the Valley of the Good Spirit and of the chosen reindeer. "Why is it called the Valley of the Good Spirit?" she asked. "Because," replied Kutok, "a wonderful and good spirit lives and moves there." "Has anyone ever seen him?" Aklak asked. "No," replied Kutok, "none but the deer people, and of these only the chosen ones ever go down into that valley. But we know that a good spirit lives there, for always the deer that graze on the hills about the valley are safe from the wolf, the bear, and all other enemies. They do not need to be watched. There need be no herder here, were it not that it is well to know when the herd moves out, for then the summer grazing is over. It is a good spirit, for is it not true that every year 8 deer are chosen, and the next year return to us the finest sled deer in all the north? The good spirit dwells there, and with him live many lesser spirits, who do his bidding." Thus it was that Kutok told the children of what you and I know as fairies and elves and gnomes and trolls. Eskimo children know nothing about these little unseen people. To them, all are spirits. "Have you ever looked down into the valley?" asked Aklak. "No," replied Kutok. "It is not well to be curious. I am content to stay here and wait for the deer to move. So must you be." "What would happen if one should venture down into the valley?" asked Aklak. "That no man knows, for no man has ever been so bold as even to think of doing such a thing," replied his father. "My son, be wise with the wisdom of your elders, and be satisfied. None but the deer folk ever enter that valley, and these only the chosen ones. We will stay here, and from a distance watch the herd." "If it is such a good spirit," thought Tuktu, although she didn't venture to express her thought aloud, "why should anyone fear to go down into the valley?" And she was still wondering as she fell asleep. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2 of The Christmas Reindeer by Thornton W. Burgess. Chapter 2. Kringle Valley. For the greater part of the short Arctic summer, the great herd of reindeer had grazed within the sound of the waters of the Arctic Ocean lapping on the beach. More than 2,000 deer were in that herd. They were not all Kutok's, although all were in his charge, for he was chief herder. Only about 200 of the deer were his, as shown by the earmarks. It was in deer that Kutok was paid for his services in looking after the great herd, which was owned by white men. With the approach of the long winter, the deer would move inland to winter range, and Kutok and his family would return to their permanent home. For several days before the opening of this story, the deer had been uneasy. They had done more or less milling. This means that they had gathered in a great body, the outer members traveling in a large circle and trotting tirelessly for most of the time. Kutok knew the sign. "They will soon seek the Valley of the Good Spirit," said he to the other herders who assisted him. That very afternoon, the herd, as if at a signal from some wise old leader, began to move inland. In a short time, all the deer but the trained pack animals, which had been fastened, had disappeared. It was then that Kutok had taken Tuktu and